Hello, hello, everyone. I am Terina Ali, and welcome to the premiere of Suds Cafe. This has been long awaited. I have honestly been putting this off for years. Forgive me, forgive me, because you all should have had this podcast, but here am I, and I'm happy to introduce to the world Suds Cafe. And who is Terina Ali? I am a native Washingtonian born and raised in the lovely city of Washington, D.C., in particular, Deanwood section of Northeast. Woohoo! And I'm happy about it. And I have been able to literally travel the world to do something that I just really love, which is teaching and training and speaking, and I get to do now this podcast. And so, why Suds Cafe? And Suds Cafe is a place where conversations just will bubble over to your soul. And I have watched many, 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 many podcasts through the years. And I actually host a podcast at work, right? And I always get this feedback that I'm such a good conversationalist, I'm a great interviewer, and I believe I am. And I had just been waiting and waiting, and I know I'm not the only one who has just been putting off all of the things that we have in our heart and our mind and our spirit to do. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. And I definitely have to give credit to where credit is due, because this idea of Suds Cafe, I had it in my mind for years, and I would speak to my husband about it because I have a fond memory of having to walk to the laundromat as a child with my mom. And the laundromats that I went to, they weren't aesthetically nice. It was really drab, and I dreaded going to the laundromat. And I never forget, we had our laundry basket and cart because my mom didn't drive, and we were walking on our street. And I never forget, I grew up on a street called Just Street, and I won't say the person's name, but I remember their name very fondly. They teased me about my mom and I having to walk to the laundromat. And for a second, that embarrassed me. But then as I got older, I just said, my mom, we never had dirty clothes. And if that's what we had to do, that's what we had to do. And then also, I love coffee shops. And I definitely will own one day. And I have a vision for it. But this is where it starts here. And your vision has to start somewhere. And I would definitely have to give credit to my husband, who had been telling me for years and years and years and years to do this podcast. And I started a form of it, but I had never really been consistent with it. And so here I am, and I'm outside. I am here. And we will have some amazing guests that I will invite on the podcast. And I will just continue to do what I believe what the Lord has placed in my heart, to share good news, to share hope, to share wisdom, to share insight into what sometimes can be a very dark and dismal world. Like, who doesn't need a dose of hope or some positivity? Who doesn't need conversation to bubble over into your soul? And many would say, like, well, there are plenty other podcasters out here, and they are. But however, it's not your podcast. It's not your book. It's not your recipe. So just think, if all the people, all the companies who made bread, so there are many different type of bread companies out here. And I'm not being sponsored by anybody yet. But however, we know all of the bread companies. So imagine if the visionaries of that said, oh, well, I'm not going to make any more bread because they're already out there. So go with it no matter what it is that you want to do. There are billions of people in the world, and everyone doesn't know everyone. And so every day I learn of someone new. And just because there are many household names from many familiar podcasts that you may watch, but here's another one. And so I encourage you to dial in, to tune in. We'll be here bi-weekly, And then we may increase, but I just had to start somewhere. And today, as I encourage myself, I just want to encourage others that, it doesn't have to be perfect to start. And for all of those perfectionists out there, and I'm one of them, let me raise my hand first, where all the accoutrements and all the things have to be in place in your mind. And it just doesn't have to be that way. Start where you are. We all have a sphere of influence, and we must use that sphere that we have. We don't have to necessarily wait until there's masses of people, because for some, that may not be the case. And that is okay. In this world, sometimes we feel that what we do is invalidated until there are large amounts of people. But that's just not the case for everyone. Do you know sometimes that there may be just one person that you heard along your path that gave you the boost or the ignite the in your heart to say, hey, I need to do something different, or I need to start different, doing things differently, or I need to start whatever it is. And so all there has to be is just one person. And so here I am, just that one person that you may run across and say, hey, who is Terina and what is Suds Cafe? And I'm here to tell you today to just start. Doesn't have to be perfect. Like this background studio that I have, it's probably going to look different at some point. So I'm starting with what I have and where I'm at, because I realize that what I have is valuable and what you have is just as valuable too. So work with what you have. Don't compare yourself to someone else's journey. I was on Instagram this morning and I saw Tyler Perry. For those who don't know Tyler Perry, he is a mogul in my mind in the entertainment industry. And he went actually to do a visual chronological order kind of thing of some of the places where he used to live, some of the grocery stores that he went to, and he shared his story of humble beginnings. There's a scripture that comes to my mind where it says, don't despise humble beginnings. That we all have to start somewhere. And I never think you should forget where you started. Some people have the luxury to be born into families where their money is plentiful, but that's not everyone's story. And even those who may start in those kind of arenas, they still have to do some things on their end to grow in whatever arena they desire to grow in. And so work with what you have. If all you have is your home to start out of, guess what? You have a home to start out of. And so we have to have the confidence in ourselves to say, all the pieces may not be there yet, but I'm going to go with what I have. And in doing that, we have to be consistent. I know I have started and stopped. But the thing about me, I've always said, okay, I have to continue. I never let things get me to the place saying, well, I'm just going to give up. And so if you have been like me, where you have started and stopped and started and stopped, that's okay too, because I'm sure we're not anomalies, and we're not alone in that start and stop process. But guess what? You can learn so much valuable information as you go along the journey. And life is a journey. Life is definitely not linear. Life doesn't just go on a straight path. It's going to have hills and valleys, highs and lows, but we must continue in that process. As they say, life just be life, and sometimes, which means you're going to have some experiences in life that may try to jolt you, or sometimes things just slow you down. And there may be a season where you literally have to stop some stuff because of maybe health issues, but you can continue in your heart and say, God, I know you placed these things in my heart. Give me the strength to continue, even if I'm just taking it one step at a time, 1 minute at a time. You just have to continue, because life is fleeting. This past December 8th, 2023, I'll never forget that I got a call. Um, I called him my brother. It was actually my sister's husband, that he just tragically passed away from a major health crisis. And it jolted me because life is just so fleeting and we really don't anticipate that today may be our last day on this earth, but we don't know the day or the hour. And so I'm saying this to say is that take advantage of the opportunities that you do have. Life is so fleeting. We think I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it the next day, but that day may not come. And so this isn't a gloom and doom message, but this is a positive message to say, let's get it done. All those things that are in your phone, that are in your iPad, that are in your memory, that are in your heart, that are on your computer, do it. If you want to publish a book and you haven't been picked up by some great huge publishing company, guess what? Self-publish your book. I did it. I'm doing it. Does it make my books less valuable? Absolutely not. One thing that I realized that written words will remain in the earth forever, even long past when I'm not here. Some people say, well, I don't have an audience yet, and who am I going to speak to? You don't know. Just put it out there. You never know what opportunities may come. You never know what people you may reach. But more importantly, you're pouring out every single thing that God has deposited in your soul. And that's just what I believe. I don't believe that we have things in our heart and visions by happenstance. I just don't believe in happenstance. I definitely believe in divinely orchestrated things. I believe that we were born with a purpose and that we were placed here to do good in the earth. I do believe in the powers of good and evil, and I believe that good will always prevail and that we have to be the light in the world. And so I want this podcast to bubble over to your soul, to be a light to you. Like everything you listen to may not resonate with you, but some stuff will. And I know the guests that we will have on this podcast definitely will bubble over into your soul in the days and the weeks and the months and the years to come. And sometimes things don't click right in this instance, but there are things that you may hear that click 10 years from now, 5 years from now. And that's why it's so important to get good, healthy information to fuel your soul, your body, your mind, and your spirit. And so we will have guests on the Suds Cafe who will do just that, to bring you information to fuel your body, mind, and spirit from a holistic perspective, from yet a faith-based holistic perspective. And I also believe in I always say this word wrong, it's UC, euchre mineral. I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm human like everybody else. I'm gonna get it wrong. Ecure mineral. I'm definitely probably still saying that wrong, but just a collection of faith believers, right? I believe that faith is important in our life to have, that we must believe in something bigger than ourselves. And I just think that is just so very important because there will be days in your life when you don't have the answer. Well, things definitely will not make sense. And we have to understand that there's something greater than us, than ourselves, that will never be able to be fully explained. And I truly believe that if we do our natural abilities, that God would put his super on it. And that I believe that is the purpose that we should do in life. And those were just some nuggets just I wanted to just share on this first premiere, because we do have an audience to reach. You may be in Brazil, you may be in Nigeria, you may be in Ukraine, you may be in the other parts of the world, you may be in California, you may be here in the United States where I'm at. But wherever this podcast lands and it reaches you, guess what? I was supposed to be talking to you. because God orchestrated it that at that day and time you were supposed to scroll past this podcast and this message was just for you. I just really wholeheartedly believe that. So we're going to go on a journey on this Suds Cafe, and definitely these conversations will bubble over. Some may make you cry, some will definitely make you laugh. Some may put you in a place of deep contemplation just to think, because every conversation won't always be this lively conversation. Some conversations we just have to really sit into and marinate. Sometimes we have this, great piece of meat or steak, and you may need to just put the seasonings on it and let it sit in the refrigerator for a while and just like marinate. And so some of these conversations here will marinate in your soul over time. I'm definitely a teacher by profession or trade. I teach and train at different universities, and I'm grateful to do that. And something my mom said to me, she said, Terina, don't be a dummy like me. I should say, Mom, don't say that. You're not a dummy. She said, get something in your head. And I've made it my business to do exactly that. And so, yes, I have the educational background. I've been afforded to go to some great universities. I've gone to Temple, Hootie Hoot. I've gone to Howard, and I've gone to Howard most recently. I don't know what they have, their slogan there, but I've been to these different institutions to get the knowledge, not just for me, but to use it to help empower, to help teach and help train other people. Do I have all the answers? Absolutely not. Will I remain open to learn so that I can grow, so that I can definitely pour what I've learned into other people? Yes. Will I continue to be a sponge to soak in information that I don't know? Yes. Will I continue to go into rooms where people know more than me so that I can soak up all the information? Absolutely, yes. And so, if any of these things resonate with you, then this is the podcast that you need to be on. If you need the bubbling in your soul back, if you've kind of lost hope, this is the place for you to be. Just at the laundromat, if you need to just sit for a while put your clothes in the laundromat, go get you a cup of coffee while the clothes are washing and spinning, and then you have to place them in the dryer. So this is this place. Something familiar, more like a home base, because everyone has to have clean clothes and has to go through some type of cycle of rinsing and then becoming pressed and dried out, right? And so you may not be that person who washes your own clothes. I'm still that person, right? You may have someone to do it for you, but the process still remains the same. That at some point, all of our clothes have to be cleaned. They have to go through cycles. And that is just how life is. We have to learn how to clean our hearts, because sometimes we hold grudges against people. Sometimes we have offenses, right? We need to go through rinse cycles where we need to rinse certain things off of us. We need to let certain things just wash out of our heart, our mind, our soul. And sometimes we need to dry things up. We need to dry our tears. We need to wipe our face so that we can have the strength to continue to go on. And sometimes we just need to sit and have a cup of coffee while all this is going on and just let the process unfold and let the thing just happen. And so this is it. We are here with Suds Cafe, and I'm so happy. I'm so very happy that I said today will be the day that we have this premiere. And I'm glad you are tuning in for it. Many people will be here from different time zones. And I'm looking to reach across the world. I'm looking to have this podcast translated into different languages to reach the people in the language that they can understand. I want this place to be relatable. I want this place to be a safe place where you feel comfortable for all the guests to come on, to share, and to be vulnerable, and to be able to bare your soul, to not sugarcoat things, because that's just not even my approach. To be honest from a gut level. A lot of times we can just be so superficial and never even touch the surface, right? Sometimes have you washed your clothes and some stains did not come out and they needed to go back in the wash again. And that's how we are as our humanity. Some things need to go back in the wash again because it's just not right. But we have to allow that process and to be okay with the process and to be honest about those things. And so I have a list of people in mind who I will want to reach out to, people that I know. But there are many people who I don't know, who I want to touch paths with, who I want to who I want to cross paths with, rather, to interact with, to break bread with, to have a cup of coffee with, or tea, or latte, or whatever it is that you may drink. And I pray that you just sit with it and begin to think about it and to be thoughtful and intentional about what you want to do with your life and where you want to go with your life. And I don't care what you have done in your past. I'll have people on here who may have blemishes just like I do, and I'll be sharing some of those along the way. But we all have a story. None of us are perfect. None of us don't get it right. And are we privy to every facet of every person's life? Nope. However, I know we all need help in the area. I know we all have personal struggles and private struggles. I know that. I've been a counselor 20 some years and I've heard and seen so many things. I've been in counseling. I still go, right? Because I want to become better. And even when I was in my master's program, I never forget, I had a professor by the name of Dr. Steele. And I'll share that story one day. I would love to actually have him on the podcast. I may try to find him and just share the testimony of actually how I even got into grad school. But we'll put a pin in that. But Dr. Stills had said that every therapist needs a therapist, right? And I wholeheartedly believe that. I believe in Jesus in therapy too. And if you go to my website, www.terinaali.com, you will see a portion of my business is focused on Jesus in therapy too. And I do see clients and I talk to them and I encourage them and I teach tips and strategies so that you can live a healthy, whole life. We can't have enough communicators in the world. We can't have enough therapists in the world. We can't have enough counselors in the world. We can't have enough podcast hosts in the world. Why? Because there are billions and billions and billions of people in the world, and we can't reach everybody. And so we need a collective voice of people putting their voices in the world to reach the audiences that they're supposed to reach. And so because I'm a teacher and I like to recap, right? We're going to end with our recaps today. And so the first point we said, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to start and work with what you have. This is the background that I have now. One day it'll be actually in a laundromat or in the studio, but it'll happen if I be consistent. And that was point number 3. I have to be consistent. And so I need accountability partners. Everyone does, right? We have to have accountability partners to say, hey, remember what you said. Even if you fall off the wagon, I used to do substance abuse classes for many years in Washington, D.C. And I would attend NA and AA meetings, Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholic Anonymous. And it was just for the day. And even if someone relapse, come back, get back on the horse, right? And also, life is fleeting. Point number 4, use your gifts now. Everyone who I have lost suddenly, I have lost 3 people in my life suddenly. They weren't sick. 1998, my brother committed suicide, gone. 2020, my mom passed in her sleep, gone. And then 2023, my brother Marty, gone from this arena, but I believe I will see them again. And so this is a message of hope. Do I miss my relatives? Absolutely, I do. Was it sudden? Absolutely. But what did I take from that? That life is fleeting and I must pour everything out that God has given me because tomorrow's not promised. And the late Dr. Miles Monroe, he talked about dying empty. So many people have dreams and visions that they didn't do anything with. They didn't feel worthy. They didn't feel they had the connections. Everything wasn't perfect for them. And so they didn't do it. I don't want that to be you. It's definitely not going to be me. And lastly, the last point that we all have an audience to reach. Remember to speak well of yourself. Remember to speak well of others. Remember to be kind to yourself, to be gracious, to operate from a place of humility, but not that false humility where you're dumbing down your gifts because you're listening to your self-talk of they are already doing it. And I would say, as I end here, they're not already doing it because it's not you. It's definitely not you. No one has your fingerprints. I put my hands up. No one has your fingerprints. And so your fingerprints need to be in the earth. This earth needs what you have. And it is my hope and my prayer that you have heard something today that will inspire you to say, you know what? I just need to get it out there and just to get it done. And so thank you so very much for tuning in to this premiere episode of Suds Cafe, where conversations definitely will bubble over into your soul. And until next time, remember to use everything that you have because someone needs what you have. Bye bye, y'all.